Okay, and so we're recording again, back to the somatic nervous system. So this is the precentral gyrus. This is where the motor sensory system, the motor system is. And the somatic nervous system is going to take care by sending informations out from the center where voluntary muscle contraction is regulated. So here's the primary motor cortex, and the motor cortex. Uh, this system is going to send informations into the uh, midbrain, and you're going to have control of skeletal muscle contraction. So every time you walk, you drive, you run, you move your body around at different postural arrangements, all that's going to be taken care of by the sensation of knowing that your central nervous system knows where all of these um, body parts are, how contracted are the muscles, how stretched are the muscles, the joint locations. So all of those are going to be after coordination with the cerebellum. You're going to have contraction of skeletal muscles, which will put you in your desired position, sitting, standing, running, and so on. So the somatic nervous system is going to control uh, the uh, okay, so the autonomic nervous system is going to control smooth muscle in the gut, in the blood vessels, in the glands, cardiac muscle, and adipose tissue. So the autonomic nuclei in the just above the cervical part of the spinal cord, you're going to have visceral receptors, and visceral receptors means that visceral effectors means that all the things we never hardly ever think about, uh, digestion, glandular function, heartbeat, control of adipose tissue, that's going to be the autonomic nervous system. We saw the somatic system here. That's coming from the primary motor cortex in the around the precentral gyrus, and that's executive voluntary function of your skeletal muscles. Then the autonomic nervous system is going to be divided into uh, this picture right here. So the sympathetic system is going to arrive from the thoracic and lumbar portions. So the cell bodies, so there's presynaptic neurons and postsynaptic. So if you look at the first fibers, you can see that all of these are pre-ganglionic fibers, okay? After a synapse here, you're going to have post-ganglionic fibers. So there's a preganglionic neuron and a postganglionic neuron. And for these sympathetic systems that are involved in increasing heart rate, increasing breathing, shutting down the digestive systems, kidney functions, bladder function, sexual reproductive functions, and so on. So the difference between the sympathetic division and the somatic, so we go back to the somatic, you can notice that there's one long axon. If we go to the sympathetic division, you can see that there's a preganglionic neuron and there's a postganglionic neuron. So there's a sympathetic chain. So much of the control of all these autonomic functions, when they have to be stimulated, when they have to be relaxed, you have the preganglionic neurons, and all of these are the postganglionic fibers. So you can see a little dot little dot here, that's the cell body of the postganglionic neurons. And so the sympathetic system has short preganglionic neurons. And you can see the color chart here, preganglionic neurons, all of these with this color brown. The ganglionic neurons or the postganglionic ones are going to be this color green. So you can see pre-ganglionic neurons and postganglionic neurons. The pattern in the sympathetic system is to have very short preganglionic neurons and very long postganglionic neurons. And the sympathetic division is basically fight or flight. So when it's working, you're going to have increased heart rate, uh, increased lung function, shutting down of the digestive functions, shutting down uh, urinary bladder elimination, and so on. And because you want to be able to escape from a dangerous situation. Okay, so then we have the postganglionic division. So the postganglionic division is going to originate in many of the cranial nerves, and this is the rest and digest system. So you can see that in this case, you have preganglionic neurons, and then you have postganglionic neurons. You can see here that the preganglionic ones are very, very long, and it's hard to see the colors, but um, the postganglionic ones are going to be very short. So the parasympathetic nervous system derives from the cervical portion of the brain and from the pons and so on in the medulla oblongata. And they have very, very long preganglionic neurons and very, very short. You can see well, it's hard to see the colors, but you can see, for instance, here, this is a very long preganglionic neuron. This is a very short postganglionic neuron. You can see that the synapses are formed. Here you go. You can see these very, very long preganglionic neurons, and you can see the postganglionic neurons are very, very short, and that's where the synapse occurs. So that's the parasympathetic system. So what does parasympathetic activation do? You relax, you process your food, you absorb your energy absorption, you'll have action at your salivary glands, your pancreas, and so on. So the two divisions, uh, so the sympathetic division reaches out to uh, your gut and your heart, your lung, and so on. So it's going to go through preganglionic neurons and reaching the heart, because the sympathetic control of the heart, for instance, is very, very, very predominant over the parasympathetic. So the parasympathetic reaches through the cranial nerves or in the abdominal pelvic cavity. Many organs receive dual innervation. So if we go back to here, notice that the heart receives information from the parasympathetic system and the sympathetic system. But the primary strong influence when the heart rate has to be accelerated and the strength and contraction has to be uh, revved up, that's the primary effect of the sympathetic. So notice that the lungs and so on, you can pick out structures like the salivary glands, the heart, the lungs, uh, throughout the kidney, and so on. Many organs receive information from both systems. Okay, I think we're finished. Okay, so let's shut that down and go back to here and stop recording. Stop recording.